Hello everyone, today we're going to be looking at a scenario of what if the old empire returned. Now, historically speaking, the old empire is kind of a warmonger. As you can see by their size, they are the largest country on this map other than the Siberian and large Alaskan countries. I don't know how big those guys are. I know for sure these guys over here in the Seafoam Green country are larger, but I mean, of in terms of important land, then yeah, the old empire has them vested, but otherwise this thing is like yeah. Anyways, I feel like that's the point conveyed, and yeah, we're gonna see how this will affect the politics around this world. To start off, a lot of countries, they've had to move their capitals. First off, down here, we head to this blue country who had to move its capital from like right here to over here. And I did not pick a good color now, did I? I'll use this gold color. They had to move their capital from here over to here. Now moving on up, we saw Greece lose almost all their land and they had to move all the way up to this area here. Rome lost their capital region and they moved their capital up. And of course, the Southern Italian Federation is now just Sardinia, so their capital is over there. The gold team had to move their capital northward as they lost their old capital, which was down here in Crimea. And I think that's every single country that lost land. Maybe. I might be missing someone, but I'm pretty sure that is right. But now we get to look at the fun little scenario here. And yeah, what would happen first in this world? Well, the expected, and we have to talk about military alliances because an alliance would definitely form against this thing almost immediately. So yeah, let's take a look at that. And for this, I'm just gonna use a circle probably, because that's the easiest to convey. It's a pretty easy shape. I honestly don't know what I'm yapping about. But yeah, we're gonna see Russia going ahead and becoming the first member of the Circle Alliance, an alliance built to oppose the old empire's return. The second member country of this alliance will be down here in Libya. This country is pretty pretty scared, to say the least. The old empire has taken a pretty good sized bite out of them, and I mean, Libya kind of got bullied by this guy. And finally, the last member that will be joining upon the beginning of this alliance will be over here in India, as they are really heavily opposed to the return of the old empire. As I mean, in modern WICSO, we saw that they tried to form a coalition against the Unitarian Mesopotamian country, but that didn't really end up working, and yeah, unfortunate. So yeah, this new coalition just formed. But yeah, we're gonna see a kind of response to this, and this will be the formation of an economic alliance that is created by the old empire to kind of like create forgiveness. And I'm gonna be using a pentagon here because why not? And the old empire will be starting this economic alliance with a few countries in mind. The first country they have in mind is over here in Rome. They're going to go ahead and add this country to their economic community because, I mean, they lost their capital, which is a pretty populated city, and that is a pretty big deal if you're one of the oldest countries in this world. Next up, they're going to go ahead and add this blue, weird Saharan, not really Saharan anymore kind of state. And also in this area, they're going to be adding the Sudanese country. So yeah, this economic alliance is off to a good start. And now we only have one more country that will be joining this economic alliance for now. And that country will be none other than the gold team over here in Ukraine. This country is absolutely scared, but they're not going to try and oppose the old empire because, I mean, Russia's on their doorstep and they're looking pretty weak. They kind of want the old empire on their good side because, I mean, if Russia invades, then the old empire is probably going to invade this guy. So you don't want to get on their bad side, at least not now. Anyways, that's enough with that. We can finally see changes happening on the map as soon as I get rid of this alliances layer. Because, yeah, we're going to see the old empire going after their first prey. And this first prey is kind of a given. Greece, you're really tiny and you gotta go. So, old Imperium forces will begin to march straight through the Greek country's remaining territory, and they're gonna quickly wipe out the capital of this country. But they're actually not gonna stop there because their forces will proceed into this blue country, seizing their capital and very quickly capitulating this country. From this point, we are gonna kind of learn that the old empire is not really familiar with any of these modern countries. So the way their people are thinking is that they can kind of just do whatever they want. And invading this blue country was an extension of that exactly. So, I mean, they just are going to completely wipe this country off the face of the earth. First of all, they will be fully annexing the land that is over here in uh, Greece. Didn't forget. And then they're going to be annexing the land that used to belong to that blue country. There was no formal declaration of war made by the old empire to the blue team. They just kind of died. And the old empire doesn't really have an excuse for this. And now we're going to see the old empire making its next move, which is an election. The old empire will elect a leader that is really pro expansionism. And this leader says he's gonna dispose of all threats to the old empire's existence. Whatever that may mean, who knows? But this guy is gonna get elected. And on the first day of his, I guess, presidency, even though he's probably gonna become a dictator, he's gonna launch a war against a country. And this country is none other than the Green Team. The Green Team has done nothing to this old empire, and they probably never could have. But you really consider this to be a threat to your empire? You know, you you can annex that. It's fine. It's not like they would have done anything anyway. So yeah, let's just erase that little capital, and this is the new map of the old empire. They are definitely an expansionist country at this point, and they are gonna kind of aggravate some other countries to do some stuff. First of all, we head on over to China, who is absolutely scared. So they are going to make the decision to join up with the Circle Alliance, which I mean could be a smart move, but you're also nowhere near the old empire, and the closest ally you have is a country who also doesn't border the old empire, but is also one of your biggest enemies. So, yeah. We're also going to see them adding a few countries outside of China. The first country that will be added is the Gold Team in the Horn of Africa. This is to be expected. This country definitely wants revenge. Um, Despite everything, these guys are still pretty nationalistic. And after that, they're going to add yet another country, and this country will be none other than the Afghan country right over here in, well, Afghanistan. So, yeah, the Circle Alliance continues to add members, whereas, I mean, the old empire doesn't have an alliance. So let's create one. Not, I hit the wrong button. I don't want to print this. Okay. Yeah, they're going to be creating their own alliance, and that will be, as displayed here, the Square Alliance. The first country to join this military alliance is to be expected. It's going to be the Farmers Union. I mean, why would these guys not join the Square Alliance? And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But they're also going to add yet another country, and that country is actually Poland. Poland, despite not having really any tie to the old empire, they're going to join this alliance because, I mean, they kind of want to get at Russia. These two, absolutely despise each other, and they're gonna get an opportunity to fight. Well, if they are presented with an opportunity to fight, they're gonna take it. And we're actually gonna see one more country joining up with this alliance, and that country will be down here in Sudan, another country that was a part of the Square Alliance at one point historically. They're gonna rejoin this alliance, which it really isn't the same alliance, but we're just gonna call it the same one, just because. And yeah, this old empire is looking absolutely massive. Let's I don't know, let's have some countries around them expand. Russia is understandably horrified. So they will be launching an invasion into their eastern counterpart to try and intimidate the old Empyreans from not invading upwards. I don't really know what their thought process is here, but they're going to launch an invasion into the eastern Russian country, and they're going to very quickly invade through this guy. They're going to deal a lot of damage very quickly because they are absolutely scared. They have no idea what they're going to do if the old empire reaches their border. So they're trying to work as swiftly as possible to strengthen themselves. And that's what they're going to do here, as they're going to fully capitulate their eastern counterpart. And they're also going to fully annex their eastern counterpart, which, um, at this point, that might not be easy to do, but you know what? You do you, Russia, honestly. Like, nobody's stopping you, and I don't think anybody in this region cares. The Eastern Russian country probably doesn't have very many friends. So, yeah, this is now the new map we are looking at. The Russian country has made a move, and this will kind of cause a trend to happen. A whole bunch of countries who oppose the old empire will be expanding their borders outward. Let's start with China. China is at this point pretty weak, and they are the strongest country outside of the old empire. So they want to expand their power, and they're going to start this off by incorporating a country into their union who isn't allowed to be a part of their union, and that country is none other than the green team over here in the central-ish kind of Eastern Asian region. It's kind of a weird region to find, but this guy's gonna be joining up with China, and there would definitely be backlash if there wasn't a giant old empire that existed over to the west. So yeah, they're kind of just gonna be able to get away with this at least until the old empire is gone. But that's not all the Chinese country will be doing, because they will also be going down to the Taiwanese country, and they will be launching an invasion into this country. Now, what did the Taiwanese country do? Well, I don't know, but they're gonna lose their capital, and they're also gonna fully capitulate. I hope this is not reflecting real life, because then we would be at World War III, but we're gonna see the Chinese country annexing Taiwan, which is a huge move because, I mean, China is doing the exact same thing the old empire is doing at this point. Are you really better than them? Or are you just trying to become them? Like, you two are pretty similar, and you just don't realize it. Anyways, let's head back to talking about the old empire, because they are kind of controlling the area around them. And what we're going to see out of this is that they're basically going to influence the Roman country to wipe out both Corsica and Sardinia. These two countries have done absolutely nothing since the start of this episode, and they will continue to be doing nothing as now they no longer exist. And also, I noticed this earlier, and I was waiting for an excuse to come over here. So, yeah, I'm gonna color in Malta the right color this time. But yeah, Rome has expanded, and as you will note, Rome is not a part of the military alliance of the old empire. Rather, they are an economic ally. And I'll talk more about those alliances later, but for now, we need to talk more about what I've been saying here, and that's uh, them promoting the expansion of their allies. And this will be seen as the Polish country will be launching an invasion into this yellow country here. What did they do? Absolutely nothing, but they're going to get obliterated off the map. and hence they're going to be annexed entirely by the Polish country. And this will create the borders of Poland that are a little more familiar, more likely. I liked the borders before they did this, though. Both the borders are actually fine, but like Poland probably has some of the best borders in all WICSO, if I'm going to be honest. And yeah, this is going to threaten one specific country into doing something, and that country's Russia, who's going to launch an invasion into St. Petersburg in order to gain access to this coastal area. Very quickly, this country will get obliterated off the face of the earth, and then they're going to continue to move into Estonia because they know Poland will likely invade Estonia if they don't invade Estonia now. So they're going to very quickly conduct this operation, and they're going to wipe out both of these countries from existence. As for the actual treaty, there isn't really one. They're kind of just going to say, "Oh, you're under our control now," and they're just gonna have to accept that. You know, sometimes life just treats you horribly, and you're just gonna have to accept that. Unfortunately, these are two entire sovereign countries that will just disappear like a few weeks later, so this is a pretty big deal, and it probably won't go unnoticed by the international community, which, I mean, is definitely focused on the old empire, but like, you're doing some pretty bad things too. And to an extent, so are you. But you've only invaded one country, so you're not nearly as bad. Whereas Russia has invaded three, and I've lost count with the old empire, but I think it's also three. I might be missing one, but it should be three. At least in this episode, they've invaded three. And now, who is the next biggest security risk to the old empire? Because they said they were going to be expanding in kind of the direction of course, them having security risks. And who is this next biggest security risk? Well, they feel as though they need to topple some governments. And the first government they want to topple is this orange countries over here in Central Asia. And they don't really want to annex this land, they just want to topple it so they have a friendly country on their border. Very quickly, they're going to take this guy's somewhat coastline. It's coastline on a lake, so it's not really. They're going to take this guy's capital. It's kind of like how very quickly the US can operate in countries. So this is about as quick as they would be in, say, Venezuela. But like, yeah, this guy's going to fully capitulate and they will be given a brand new government. But that's not the only country that the old empire will be holding these special operations in, because they have a pretty close neighbor, this Cyan country here, who is also going to get invaded, this time navally, and very quickly they're going to lose this whole chunk of their territory here. And yeah, there goes your capital and the rest of your coastline, and at this point it's going to become a very hard war to fight. This war is being fought very weirdly, and it has a lot of guerrilla warfare going on, and they just don't like it. So the old empire is going to invite a certain country to join up with this conflict to put an end to it entirely. And this is none other than the Pink Country, who will be getting involved in this war and will be sending its forces southward. And very quickly, they're going to wipe out this whole eastern chunk, and we're going to see the Cyan team fully capitulating over here in the west to the old empire. And now we can take a look at a peace treaty that will be created for this country, as I mean, they're definitely not surviving what just happened to them. They just got absolutely obliterated by their two strongest neighbors. So more likely than not, they're going to be losing a lot of land, which, as you can see, is outlined here. The old empire will be annexing this small coastal region here, and we're going to see the pink team annexing this more inland area here. It kind of creates this ugly border, but we're going to ignore that for now because these guys have more ambitions, and that has something to do with this ideology layer here, which, I mean, they just toppled a democracy over here in this guy, which, I mean, is a pretty weird thing to do, but, I mean, you know what, you do you. And they also toppled a democracy, I mean, an autocracy over here in the Orange Country. Basically, what they want to do here is they want to change all of the governments in their area to being flawed democracies. And this is going to be a weird way of going about it because, I mean, yeah, you're kind of, mm, kind of a dictatorship, if I have to say anything. And that is a weird thing to do. Maybe these guys aren't actually democratic. Maybe it's something more like that. And that's actually what I'm going to be using for this. So these guys will be trading one dictator for another. And I'm going to get a different color for this, actually. I'm going to use this purple color. They're going to be pro Old Imperial dictatorships. And yeah, a few other countries will have that exact same thing happening. First of all, Rome will have that happening. They're going to get a dictator, of course, that's a Roman thing to do. So, I mean, it's not fully unexpected, but I mean, Rome's going to be getting a dictator, but one other country will be getting a pro Old Imperial dictator who you probably never expect to have a pro Old Imperial dictator. And that country is none other than the the I almost said the wrong country, the Dutch country. And this is a weird turn of events because the old empire, they historically have a pretty big grudge um against the Dutch because they were a colonial power and they didn't like that. And this is kind of weird to look at, but we're gonna have to see how this unfolds. But for now, we can turn off this ideology layer. So now we can head back on over to the Chinese country, who is going to go ahead and continue on their expansion. Now, where would they go? Well, that's an obvious answer because they have an ally up here in Manchuria who they're going to basically say, yo, join up with us or you're going to get completely invaded. And this Manchurian country will have to give in because they don't want to lose their sovereignty. And I mean, they'd probably rather be united with China than losing a lot of resources. So, yeah, they're going to be forced to give in here. Now, China has really, really weird borders, and I kind of don't like looking at that. But I mean, it'll be something I'll have to get used to, at least for the rest of this video, which is probably not going to be going on all too much longer because we're already 22 minutes in. Let's head on over to the alliances layer, where we're going to see some countries joining up with the Circle Military Alliance. Starting off over here, a country has finally broken its silence. West Africa will be joining up with the Circle Alliance in order to oppose the old empire. But not only them, they will also be adding the Mediterranean country here, who historically had pretty close ties with the old empire, but now they don't. As well as this, in this same region, we're going to see them adding the Andalusian country, which is yet another historical rival of the old empire. So, yeah, this Circle Alliance is getting pretty strong, and it's adding a lot of members who are pretty influential. Now let's head on over to the Asian area over here, where we're going to see all three of these southern Indian countries joining up with the Circle Alliance. As well as this, we're going to see this Maroon country joining up with the Circle Alliance as well, because they oppose the Square Alliance. Heading on over to Central Asia, we're going to see that this gray country, as well as this dark blue country, although absolutely hating each other to bits, they're going to join up together in this alliance in order to oppose the imperialism that the old empire has been utilizing against their neighbor states. Heading on over to Africa, we're going to see the South Sudanese country joining up with the Circle Alliance because, I mean, they got their independence from the Gold Team. They're kind of really influenced by them, so they're kind of just going to fold like that. And this is the brand new updated map of the Circle Alliance. But now let's see what countries the Square Alliance will be adding. To start off, we're going to head on over to Africa, where they will be adding their weird desert friend thing in this blue guy. They've done absolutely nothing except be crippled so far, so we're going to have to see if they have anything to provide. But they're going to be joining up with this military alliance, most likely for security. But so will the Roman country. something they didn't do until World War III, but now they're going to be doing it here because they deem it as necessary, because it's likely if they didn't, they would eventually fall under the control of the old empire itself. That's not something they really want. Next up, we're going to see the gold team doing the exact same thing as I just said with the Roman country. They see it as the only opportunity to survive. And now finally, we have two more countries who will be added. And guess what? They might or might not have been the countries who had their regimes changed. Yay. But now we have one country that the old empire kind of doesn't want to be in their way, and that is this maroon country here, and they kind of want to link up their coastline here. So first of all, they're gonna go up to the orange country here, and they're gonna say, yo, you're gonna give us these two provinces here, and you're gonna chill out with us. You're not gonna do anything. You're just gonna let us take this because, I mean, why wouldn't you? You're our ally. We kind of control your government, so you're just gonna have to give in, and we're gonna take this little bit of coastline. Would that be counted as coastline? I guess it could be, but I mean, yeah, they're gonna be adding that to their empire there. So yeah, the old empire will expand, as well as this. They're gonna begin to threaten this maroon country. And they're basically gonna say, "Let us link up our coast, and we will not attack you." And we're gonna see the maroon country folding here because, I mean, if they didn't, they would definitely be in their grave right now. But we're gonna, of course, still be talking about this because of the way I'm like presenting it. The maroon country will be losing much more than the coastlines. This was outlined in the provinces, but I mean, they could have also just created new provinces. The maroon country is obviously being taken advantage of here, and they're in a pretty bad situation. So we're kind of just gonna see the old empire saying, oh, we're sending in our forces to stabilize the government, when really that's not at all what they're doing. And all they're doing is giving this country a short term government so they can be annexed into their neighboring country, which, I mean, is probably their historical greatest enemy, because in the actual storyline, we saw that this orange country did actually annex this maroon country. And yeah, the old empire is promoting some bad things here. And now a key question will be asked. Why hasn't the old empire added the Persian country to their alliance? Why haven't they invaded them? Why is this Persian country still here? Well, if they did that, that would be pulling the trigger, because then that opens up a massive front line for Indian forces to fight against the old empire. And that is something they do not want. They know the second they do that, that front line is being taken advantage of, so they intend on not doing that. So, how else can you go about doing it? Well, they have a plan, and it involves this maroon country here. This maroon country is, on the ideology layer, a autocracy. They have a dictator, and they are not at all in favor of India, but more specifically, they're not in favor of the old empire. And they know that this maroon country has some people that they want to bring into their country that are located over here in this area of the Persian country. So basically, what they're going to do is first, they're going to kill the dictator of this guy. Then they're going to kind of influence the supreme parliament of this country to elect a certain guy who wants to do exactly what they want him to do. And this guy is technically, first of all, one of those. And he is going to begin an invasion into the Persian country. And this is obviously a pretty bad move for his country because, I mean, your country is definitely weaker than the Persian country overall. But, I mean, we're going to ignore that here because, I mean, yeah, I mean, you're landlocked. Persia's not. Persia would defeat you, but, like, it doesn't really matter because obviously the old empire is going to be getting involved here. And yeah, at this point, we're going to see the old empire joining the war saying, oh, we need to stop this imperialism coming from the Maroon team. The Maroon team is a threat to our existence, so we're just gonna prevent this from happening. And is this really preventing it? And from here, we see most of the country falling under the occupation of the old empire. But then we see old Imperium forces pushing all the way up to the border of the Maroon team. This is kind of strange because the Maroon team should have had some losses, but they barely had any. And from this, we're going to see, first of all, the full annexation of the remainder of the Persian country by the Old Empire. But we're also going to see the country of this Maroon team leaving the alliance of the circles, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know what I was really going on about there, but yeah, the Circle Alliance will be losing a member. And China is mad about that. So China will be launching a special operations, they call it, into South China. And this operation will be to kind of present themselves as an actual threat to the old empire's existence, because China overall is a little more industrialized throughout than the old empire. But I mean, the old empire just has so much land, so much valuable land. China really only has this coastal region here, and that's about it. Whereas the old empire has many different regions. First of all, they have the coast down here, they have this area here, they have this area here, they have Turkey, they have, of course, Mesopotamia, they have this important area of Egypt, they have this coastline here, they have the Horn of Africa here, they have Greece, they have the southern Italian area, they have a lot going for them, whereas China, once again, only has that one coastal area. So, yeah, they want to expand on their power, and this is exactly what they're going to have to do that. This is the largest war of this episode by far. Episode? It's not really an episode, but you know what? It can be. And yeah, we're going to see the Chinese moving around very quickly, cutting off the capital of South China and fully taking it. From here, the government of South China will fall into shambles, and we're basically going to see the Chinese saying, "Oh, we're in charge now, and you're going to be our ally again." The Chinese will put upon a lot of uh, laws on the South Chinese, which are not at all favored by the people of this area. This will make these people absolutely despise the Chinese with every part of their soul, because, I mean, they were your former ally. Why are you doing this to them? That doesn't make much sense. And, yeah, let's look at this border we've just created. China will be annexing most of your valuable land. Let's go. So, yeah, China. What's this about? I thought those were just some special operations, quote unquote, the old empire. And they're not gonna get a response from this, obviously, but yeah, South China will be very crippled from this war, and they're gonna be forced to move their capital all the way back to a major city in this area here. That's not all, though, because we head on to the Alliance's lair, where we're going to see them adding a new country into their alliance, which, the way I've been getting at it, is pretty obvious. South China will be forced into joining the Circle Alliance in order to oppose the old empire. China has officially made a statement, and that is that they're going to purposefully recruit countries through means of imperialism as well. Exactly what the old empire has been doing this entire time. And the old empire is going to call them out for this. But China, they're not going to stop. China will be launching yet another invasion into a country. This time, they're going to launch an invasion into this blue country here in the middle of nowhere. And very quickly, the Chinese will basically dart to the capital of this blue country, and they're going to wipe it out. From here, we're going to see the Chinese disposing of the entire government of this country. And, yeah, they are growing very rapidly through very bad means of doing so. And, yeah, your country might be worse than the old empire. This is what the Chinese government is kind of doing at this point, and it's definitely looking a little different than how it did before, because I mean, that's what you're looking like now. And that's never a good thing when a democracy just turns like that, especially when you're the largest democracy in the world. So, yeah, what's your next move, China? Is it another invasion? Well, of course it is. China, right after that invasion, the third invasion in a row, will be launching an invasion of their greatest historical rival. They will be launching an invasion into Korea. This invasion will start off pretty slow, as Korean forces, they are kind of always on this border, and Chinese forces are, of course, still in that blue country over in the west, so they are pretty slow to move here. Of course, China would still have a large manpower advantage, but yeah, Korea, they they're gonna begin to get cooked here. And it's at this point that the old empire will say, if you continue your invasion into Korea, we will invade the Circle Alliance in its entirety, and we will eliminate your alliance from the map. China has a decision to make here, and this decision is a pretty grand one. Do they continue their invasion of one country, or do they, I mean, let their allies fight a war they don't want to fight? What's your call here? And the Chinese dictator is in a fit of rage at this. So it's at this point that he's just gonna dart across Korea, very quickly sweeping through the north before he allows negotiations to be held. And these negotiations will be pretty tough on the Chinese. They will not be gaining nearly as much economic resources as they had hoped for, and rather they're really only going to be benefiting from the actual land. So yeah, we're going to see the Chinese annexing this small chunk of Korea. I mean, it's not small, but like it's small in comparison to what they could have had. And yeah, the Korean country will be pushed back here, but this is kind of showing how weak China is. China will never be able to take down the old empire. And it's at this point that a massive standoff has been created. No country can make a move without igniting global war. And I don't feel like that's a scenario I want to play out, so this is the end of the video. It would have been cool to have a finale, final battle, but really in that scenario, these two are getting absolutely obliterated. These two are getting absolutely obliterated. Russia's getting absolutely obliterated. I mean, these guys might stand a little while, but they're getting obliterated. Even you, Andalusia, you're getting cooked. And India and China would be able to hold their own. The old empire would never be able to invade them, and it'd just be them fighting for forever. There'd never be a winner. But really quickly, before we do end, we need to talk about the pro dictator over here in the Dutch country. And I really only mentioned that so it could be presented that this old empire has a much larger reach without a strong Russia trying to hinder them in Europe. So, really, they could do whatever they want in Europe, and Russia couldn't really do anything. They could basically have Europe under their thumb for basically no cost. Like, they already have 3 European countries under their belt. A lot of countries oppose Russia here. You could probably get that guy. These two are definitely in your favor. This guy up here, Iceland probably, Denmark definitely, Germany and Austria, they were once puppeted by Russia. You could probably get this guy. I mean, they were invaded by Russia at one point. And then, of course, your former ally in Galicia. That's a whole bunch of countries right off the bat. And then, of course, you have your new friend in the Dutch. So, really, you can do whatever you want in Europe and you have nothing stopping you. And elsewhere, we don't really have much a threat to them either. In Africa, they have a free valley of opportunity to expand their economic and military alliances into this area. These two and these guys are not stopping them, no matter what you think. In South Asia, they don't really have any reason to expand here. And I mean, this, you don't have any interest in invading. Like, let's be real. And in Central Asia, they can have their way even with these two in the way. Like, they can topple governments around these two. These two can just be a thorn in your side. But yeah, once again, this is gonna do it for today's episode. And yeah, if you made it all the way through this video, make sure you do subscribe. I have my own WICSO series going on this channel. Episode 5 did really well. I dropped episode 6 the day of this recording. So I'm hoping that does well, but right now it isn't. So I hope this one does well because the Old Empire is a pretty talked about thing in WICSO, and I feel like it should do well statistically. Like, I feel like the Old Empire is the thing this channel needs, really. I don't think it's actually been mentioned on this channel yet until now. Kind of weird. Anyways, that's gonna do it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.